So when I was pregnant, and this is how it's going to go. So when I was 20 years old, I found out that I was pregnant. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant with twins. 2 weeks after that, I found out that I had lost a twin. I was a sophomore at NC State studying pre-med, and then I realized I sucked at chemistry. But because I broke a rule of my father's by getting pregnant, I had to stop going to school. But I had major complications in my pregnancy. I had a 2-vessel cord instead of a 3-vessel cord, which basically said that my daughter would have a 30% higher chance of having chromosomal abnormalities, namely like a 3-chamber heart instead of a 4-chamber heart. So every other week after my 7 months, I had an ultrasound just to check in to make sure everything was fine. She was born happy, healthy, after 39 weeks of pregnancy. Wow, it felt like labor. Kind of still is after 39 years now. After 26 hours of labor and an emergency C-section in the end, she was born super happy and healthy. Happy and healthy was not the relationship, though, that I had with her father. I had been with her father since I was 14 years old, so age 14 to 21, wrap your brain around that a little bit. And then after I had my daughter, I pretty much realized what I was willing to put myself through, not willing to put her through. So within the first year of her life, I left. And when I was 22, I bought my first house. Wasn't really planning on doing that. I didn't really know how to do that. I just asked one of my clients at Banana Republic, like, hey, how do you go about like how to qualify for a house? And she's like, well, give me your stuff. And I was like, okay, next thing you know, I'm buying a house. That was cool. It's amazing what happens when you just ask questions, people, seriously. I loved being a mother. She is my best friend. We did everything together. We went to the zoo, went to the museums. Like, we were constantly doing something, because if I sat still, I'd fall asleep. So yeah, that's really important. But yeah, she's amazing, and she had, the light of my life, my best friend. And then I met this guy. He was a client at Banana Republic. His name was Miguel. He would come into my store, and my tongue would unravel onto the floor, and I'd be like, hi. And anyone that knows me knows that I can pretty much talk to like a wall. And so when he would come in and I couldn't speak directly, my associates like ran over to me and they were like, who is that guy? Because you get stupid. And I'm like, I know. And they're like, you should ask him out. And I'm like, I can't do that. I would never do such a thing. And the next time he came in, I was like, okay, fine. So I was like, hey, do you want to get some coffee sometime? And, it took a little bit to like muster that out. And he was like, well, and I was like, oh God, you have a girlfriend, of course. And he was like, well, and like, I don't really pay attention to rings and things because like, I don't really like consider myself materialistic or, anyway, oops. Yeah, he was married. And I was like, shit, sorry. And he's like, well, it's not really a good thing. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a source of temptation. Like, I'm sorry, whatever. Well, so the next time he came in, I was like, hey, Miguel, what's up? And he was like, oh, you're talking to me? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm just not going to ask you out for coffee. And so, I could then speak like a normal human being and like all was well. Anywho, moving forward. I had been at Banana Republic for several years, and I did everything from like merchandising to customer experience to scheduling to payroll to budgeting to auditing, you name it, like I did it, and I loved it. One of my other roles at Banana Republic was to be a store community leader, and so I volunteered for this position because I have time, and so I thought it would be a great idea to, it was my job to come up with creative ways to raise money for nonprofits. And so I thought, well, what better way to do that than to have fashion shows? And so we sold tickets for $10, and we ended up raising $500 for our first fashion show. All the employees were models. It was super cool, and we raised $500, and I was like, woohoo. Well, we kept doing that, and we ended up raising enough money to build a house for Habitat for Humanity, and so we ended up building a house. And then after that, we moved into the Alliance of AIDS Services Carolinas. And this was right around the time that the whole Gap Inc. Red campaign came out, so it was super cool. And back in the day when I wanted to go to school for pre-med, I wanted to find the cure for AIDS. Yeah, that's what I was going to do. But yeah, we did that, and it was awesome. And anyway, it was after one day that we had a fashion show for the Alliance of AIDS Services Carolinas that I stayed late at work, which I tried to never do because quality of life is really important. But one of my associates slid in early, and so our paths just rarely crossed. And she informed me that the owner of the salon that did our hair and makeup for the fashion shows, that her son had leukemia, and maybe we should think about switching organizations. And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that night I went home and Miguel told me that he had been diagnosed with leukemia. So Miguel was a super health nut. We had a gym in our house. He worked out 6 days a week. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that week, he got really lightheaded, really dizzy, and he ended up getting fevers. And you don't get fevers from working out, so he thought that's kind of strange. So he decided to go to urgent care to have them test his blood. And they ran his blood 4 times because they thought the machine was broken. Finally, the doctor tested her blood, and he's like, "What's going on?" And she said, "We're shocked that you're standing in front of us. You have 60,000 white blood cells in your system. Normally, we have 3,000 to 7,000 white blood cells in our system." So this was bad. We talked that night. That was actually the same day that I finished school. So I told you I stopped going to school. Well, I went back to school, and I finished my degree in 3 years, part-time, and I went back to be in pharmaceutical sales. And so the next day, actually, I already had a meeting set up with GlaxoSmithKline, and he's like, "You got to go. This is why you went back to school." And so I went to go to this meeting, and the guy even said, "You look kind of rough." And I was like, "Eh." And you don't want to say anything at those meetings of what's going on. He probably just, anyway. So I didn't say anything, and a couple weeks later, when he asked me to come back for another go around, he was like, I had to tell him, obviously, my boyfriend is diagnosed the night before, and that's why I looked like a hot mess, because I'd been crying for hours, and yeah, I need to keep my job at Banana Republic and not try on something new. So after we went to the cancer center that day, they told us that we'd have about a week to wrap up work. And so we ended up, I went to work the next day. He was like, "Keep all your time. I'm going to need you eventually. Everything's okay right now." And so I went to work, and I was this total zombie person. And I remember my first client that I saw, and she was like, "Kendra, you were built for this. You could have only people get what they're meant to handle. You can handle this." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's why I went through hell for 7 years with Kayla's father. Now I know. Awesome." And so thank you for that. Okay. Anyway, so after that, we made it through the weekend, and that was, my daughter had gone away for the weekend, so when she came back, we sat down with her on the Monday, and we told her that Miguel had cancer, and the first question she asked is he gonna die? And we were super optimistic, we talked to her about everything. I've always been very transparent as a mother, and shared everything, and transparent as a human being, and sharing all this information. Anyway, but we were super optimistic. Anyway, Miguel we went back to the cancer center on Monday for them to test his bone marrow at the molecular level. And when we went in, his 60,000 white blood cells doubled to 120,000. So this is bad. And so they, instead of having a week, they told us to go home, pack a bag immediately. You're going to the hospital right now. We have to start treatment now. And so Miguel was at Rex for 5 weeks. When we had gotten admitted to the hospital, actually, the woman, checking us in asked if I was his wife, and he was like, "No, this is my girlfriend, this is my life partner," and he grabbed my hand, and, we walked inside together, and it was, again, you're in this complete zombie-like phase whenever you're going through this. And he was on, he started chemotherapy immediately, but he was running 4 miles on the treadmill every day. He was a superhero, and he would just, it didn't even faze him, and we're, super optimistic, everything's gonna go great. He got discharged quickly, and then he was on this magic pill called Gleevec, which has had an 85% cure rate for his type of cancer. Now it has a 95% cure rate for his type of cancer, short years later. Well, anyway, after we got out of the hospital, he was his uncle was a medical doctor talking to him about everything, and he's like, "You realize if things turn for the worse, Kendra, as your girlfriend, has no say-so in what happens in your end-of-life circumstances." And so he was like, "I would have asked you eventually, when's your next day off?" And I was like, "Tuesday?" So basically, right before then, we were going to go to the courthouse, and it doesn't really matter, again, I don't really care about rings or things, but yeah, I was like, "Well, can we have just a little bit of romance?" And so there was this gazebo out back of our house that overlooked this gorgeous pond, and I had heels on, and so instead of walking, we just drove around the corner, and we get out, and we're there, and all of a sudden the heavens are fucking coming down on us, and we're and you could just see the sheet of rain, coming across the pond, and so yeah, that's why the umbrella popped, and so we ended up getting married in our living room, and it was super intimate, and it was really special. I mean, my daughter was there, my mother was there, his best friend who was a photographer was there, the pastor came, and then our 2 best friends that were our neighbors, that were 76 and 78 that we used to smoke cigars together with, were there, and it was awesome. Anyway, so yeah, we did that. Exactly a month after that, he was admitted to Duke for a bone marrow transplant, which really was his only saving grace. His brother was 100% match in the 12 phases, which is what you want, so you don't get graft versus host disease, but basically, and it's not painful. So they gave his brother a drug to make him over-replicate his white blood cells, which are grown inside of your bones, which is called bone marrow. And basically they get really crowded in there with this drug, and so they just release out into the bloodstream. So it's taken like a blood transfusion and given to someone else. So if you're ever asked to donate bone marrow, do it, because you could save a life, or many possibly, and it's really hard to be a match. But anyway, so Miguel went into Duke, and he got this bone marrow transplant from his brother. Prior to getting it, he had like heavy radiation, heavy chemotherapy, and like up until this point, like the scary physical things of cancer like never really happened. Like he always shaved his head, so he was always thin, so like none of those like physical things ever happened. But this was a time where he was like throwing up and not doing well, and like I could finally see those things happening to him. Anyway, he recovered super quick, fast, in a hurry. We got discharged out of the hospital. They even let him leave with a feeding tube in. We had to stay in an apartment in Durham right next to Duke just in case anything happened. So we did that for like 5 weeks, and my daughter was tracked out of school, and it was super cool because she was like help pulling pills and organizing these and then flushing his line. And it was really amazing experience to be able to like go through together as a family. And anyway, so he recovered super quick. He started working out again. We're back home. Like I can't even keep up with my husband who has cancer, and I'm like trying to follow him around, and he's like, boop. And so anyway, November comes around, and we end up having another fashion show, and I'm super stoked. Of course, we're raising money for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and we raised $10,000. It was the most that we had ever raised. I was super stoked, and I came home to tell him, and he spoke back up. We had a fashion show. It's amazing. We raised $10,000, and I went to tell him he was sleeping, and I was like, damn. And then the next morning I had to go to work, and he was still sleeping, and I was like, argh! So I'm holding in all this like exciting news to tell him that we raised all this money, and then I get home from work, and I'm like ready to spill my guts, and he was like, my doctor called. My cancer came back. It mutated twice. One of the mutations is incurable. So like good feeling gone. And so after that happened, we let like into the holiday season. That Christmas, he didn't get out of bed, which that never happened. And it was really challenging going between my 8-year-old daughter and my husband, who's laying in bed all day, dying of cancer. And so January came around, and he got accepted onto a clinical trial at MD Anderson, which is awesome. And it's kind of like, this is our last hope. So we drove across the country to Houston, Texas, and he started on a clinical trial. He was the first human to be on this clinical trial, which is like really exciting, but like really terrifying at the same time. And he ended up going through 4 clinical trials while he was there. 2 of them, he was the first. And I flew back and forth for several months because, again, he didn't need me, and he didn't want me there until he really needed me. And March was definitely a turning point, which ironically I'm here in March right now, and I'm thinking back to that years ago. And he was gray. Like when I went to go see him, he kind of warned me, like we had Skype, thank God for Skype, and we kind of forgot about it for the first month, and then we're like talking nonstop and seeing each other, and I'm like, this is awesome. And he's like, just think I'm on a long business trip. And so we talked, and then leading up to me going to see him in March, he's like, I'm tired, can we just talk? And I'm like, of course. And so he warned me before I came that, Kendra, like I look like an old man, I walk like an old man, and I'm not well. And so I was like, it's fine, And I saw him, and I believe that he was, at that point in time, like dying from the inside out. Like his skin was gray, he was crippled, he had lost a ton of weight, and he didn't have any to lose. Anyway, we drove from there to Dallas to see his brother, who actually gave him the bone marrow transplant, and he lived there with his family. And the whole way there, Miguel's like hallucinating and everything else, and he's on a ton of medication, which is kind of normal. But we get there, and throughout the entire night, like he's writhing in pain. Like I had to take a hair thing out of my hair and like wrap it around his leg to like put pressure on it. And I watched him writhe in pain, and I'm like, I can't do this. 6:30 in the morning, I was like, we've got to go back to the hospital. And they basically told me that like he was a guinea pig, and he's going to be a guinea pig as long as he wants to be. And so sorry, but this is the way it is. And I was like, oh my God. And he needed a caregiver, and I was like, does he know this? Because he's not saying any of these things with me. And Miguel was always like, mind over matter. I needed to know everything. Like my name means knowledgeable. Like I read everything I could get my hands on. I shared as much information with people as possible so they wouldn't ask him, because he didn't want to talk about it. For him, it was very much what he could control. And at this time, when I told him, like, you need a caregiver, you're not going to be able to take care of yourself, he was like, no, I am fine. You need to go home. Like, I'm good. And so I leave bawling my eyes out. I go to the airport, still crying. And, this is, again, March, my birthday month. And I get home, and he's like, Kendra, I'm sorry. Obviously, he was a lot on medication. He was hallucinating when I was in the room talking to a bunch of people in his life that had recently died and that had died a long time ago. And again, this is kind of normal, when you're going through this transition. And he was like, I just want you to know that I'm ready. Like, I just want you to know that I'm at peace about it. And that was a huge relief because for him to be at peace about it helped me be at peace about it. We were always optimistic about it, about him making it through, and even though the odds were against us, even though we had a lot of the odds in our favor, things were not looking so great. And so anyway, I flew back and forth another few times, and in May came around, and I flew back home. The next day he called me. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I flew back out there, and we drove back across the country, and he came home, and watching him, over the summertime really deteriorate and really slow down was really hard. And then we ended up, in September, he went into a pain crisis. And we went to the hospital, and it took him about a week to get the pain under control. And then finally, they recommended hospice, which again, I read everything, and so I kind of knew what that meant. He really didn't. And, when we got discharged on a Thursday, he said, well, let me see what it's about. So on Friday, they came to our house, and they told us what was going on. Hospice is basically to make you comfortable. It's not to give you a feeding tube. It's not to give you medication. It's to help you transition out of your life comfortably. And so he said, well, let me think about it over the weekend. And then on Saturday, he woke up, and he looked at his 42 pills that he had to take every single day, and he was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And on Sunday, he woke up, and he said, oh, shit, maybe I should have taken some of those. And then on Monday, he said, I'm ready. And by that Friday, he could no longer walk, so we got him a hospital bed. And by the following Friday, he was gone. And this was my first experience with death closely, and obviously very intimately. I think that death is different for everyone. I think we deal with it differently. Just a side note, if you didn't realize it, you're all gonna die someday. So just a heads up, as much as I wanna be a vampire, it's not gonna happen. So if you didn't know, it's coming eventually for you. So, and I say that to be anyway, I'll say that later. I watched my husband die. I held his hand, and he kind of went into a state of unconsciousness at the very end. And I felt the warmth going out of his hand. I felt like his soul was being ripped out of him, with every breath. But I'll tell you, in my experience, and again, this is my experience, and all of you will have different experiences of what you've probably already possibly gone through or what you might go through in the future. But for me, it was very peaceful, and it was very beautiful. And thank God. Now, there was also I didn't speak Spanish, and he did, and at the end of his life, he was speaking in Spanish monologues because he was watching Sopranos every night, and he was going into this thing at 4 o'clock in the morning, going on and on and on, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're saying. And so I'm glad that I didn't know what he was saying at the time, because he was saying, basically, why this pain, and it was fluid filling up in his lungs and basically suffocating. He was basically drowning. And I say it that, watching someone and holding their hand and feeling this, we're very mechanical. If you think about the human body, I've always been fascinated with anatomy and physiology, and when we're breathing and our hearts are beating and everything else, we're just making through, and it's just happening. Anyway, I spent a little bit longer on that than I thought I was going to. After he passed away, again, another zombie-like phase, I needed to be alone, I needed to clean him up because Miguel would die to be in that position. So I went back with a hospice nurse, and I was like, I need to take care of him. And she said, you, in 30 years, are the only person that has ever helped me clean up a body. And I was like, Miguel would die. I have to, I know he's dead, but I have to take care of him. I have to clean him. And so I did. And then I had to be alone. And my mom brought me a pumpkin spice latte, and I took one of Miguel's cigars, and I took a walk by myself. And it was oh shit, I kind of prepared myself for the fact that my husband might die, and oh, I'm 30 years old, and I'm a widow, and damn, and all these things, and it's weird. It's a weird feeling. Anyway, the next day, I got all of Miguel's clothes and gave them to his brothers that came from Honduras and from Texas, and because he was like, don't you dare put me in any of my nice clothes. This is how we met. So he's got a nice wardrobe, and he was like, no. So I put him in his raggedy little t-shirt and his boxer briefs from Banana Republic that I sold him, and that's what he was gonna be cremated in. He was like, don't you dare burn any of my clothes. And I'm like, I like them too. So I gave, and I had to like clear it out because it was just a constant reminder of like the pain, right? And anyway, and it was like me kind of moving on. It was me mentally like, okay, like this happened and it's not like I just can't dwell. Like I have to keep going. I have a daughter. I can't just sit there and do nothing. And so anyway, I went alone to the crematorium and I picked up his ashes. And then I went to this like lunch spot that we always had lunch at, and I cried my ass off, and it was awesome. And then I went to try to find a black dress, and why couldn't I find a black dress? It's really frustrating, and there should be black dresses everywhere. Anyway, and you know those like movies where you see somebody like walking really, really slow, but everybody else is like fast going? Yeah, that's what that felt like that day. And I get back home, and my entire house is like a fucking jungle, and everyone sent me like flowers and plants and food and everything, which was super thoughtful and really nice, and I felt really bad, but I lost my shit, and I was like, get it out. Like, it's a constant reminder of the pain that I went through. And so I told my friend to tap into my email and tell everyone, instead of giving me things, like I kill everything. I mean, not namely my husband, but like plants and things, but like, I can't keep anything alive, basically. And so I was like, please do not waste your money on this. Like, we need money to raise money, or we need money to raise funds so that we can fucking cure this disease so nobody else has to go through this shit. And so basically, we raised a lot of money for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And so this was our first Light the Night walk. And we continued to do that, throughout the years in honor of Miguel. So after all of that, I went back to work in October. So Miguel died on October 9th of 2009, a month shy of his 40th birthday. I went back to work, and I had gotten kind of transferred to streets at South Point after being at Crabtree for 10 and a half years at Banana Republic. And my boss quit the Friday before Black Friday, which is like a mortal sin in retail. And I was like, oh my God, what are you thinking? And so anyway, I was kind of up for promotion in January, and I was like, it's the right time, it's the right people. Like, there was a whole new leadership team. It wasn't just I'd been there for 11 years. It was like, no, this is it. Like, I'm ready. And they gave it to some guy outside the company at the recommendation of the woman that quit. And I was like, what the fuck? And so I was like, no. So I said, fuck it. Life is way too short. I love what I do, but I can't do this anymore. So I'm going to do it for myself. So I decided to write a business plan, which I did in 2 months, because I was nominated to run for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Woman of the Year. So I put myself on a deadline to finish this because I only had 10 weeks to raise as much money as I possibly could to possibly win the title of the Woman of the Year. So basically, each dollar is a vote, and whoever has the most dollars wins, kind of thing. So with the help of like a lot of people and lots of fundraising and talking about Miguel a lot for this time in the period, I ended up winning the campaign. And I was winning against like doctors and lawyers and presidents of companies, and I was like, I work at Banana. And I won, and I was like, this is so crazy. And so it was very humbling and really amazing. And so obviously I knew like I was on to bigger, better things. So I won the campaign. I sold my house. I bought my new one. I quit 2 weeks later. I opened my first store in November of 2010 in Briar Creek. On 11/11/11, I opened my second store in Cameron Village. On 12/12/12, I wrote my book, You Only Live Once. It is not YOLO. Please don't ever say that to me. And about a year and a half ago, moved downtown. This is our location downtown, which I'm absolutely in love with our space. I'm absolutely in love with this community. We finally made it home, thank God, because Briar Creek and Cameron Village sucked the soul out of us. Thank God, not permanently, right? So anyway, I'm still here. So yeah, we raised money. This was our first fashion show, actually. We had a 70-foot long runway over water. It's pretty badass. I will not do that again because it rained on us like 3 times and it's shitty. And yeah, we love doing this. We love having lots of fun and lots of community. This is what we do, and we do it every day. And so like I like to say that I celebrate life on a daily basis because like you just don't know when it's going to be your last. Like I could leave right now and get hit by a car. And I hope if I do, I just get killed because like I don't want to live after that. Probably, but like please don't kill me. Seriously, I actually really want to live a very long life. I can't wait to go gray. I'm ready to go silver. All of that. So anyway, so what's next? Everyone keeps asking. Well, first, that's funny that the slide didn't click. Well, this is my daughter now. This is Kayla. She's amazing. She's kind of killing me right now, but we're going to make it through this together. If any of you guys have kids that are 18, I've been just recently told this piece of advice, which really helped me, because I was like, everyone's like, oh, she's 15, oh, she's 16, oh, she's 17. I'm like, no, I'm going to strangle my kid. Like, what the fuck is going on? And they said that basically, like physiologically, like genetically, there is something going on inside of them that is going to break you in half as a parent so that you can be like, and it's time for you to go now. So I felt a lot better at that point in time. Anyway, so after I get her off to Warren Wilson, which is where she's going to college, which I'm super stoked. It's perfect because it's like a hippie commune, and my daughter's really special. So it's going to be great for her. She wants to be a psychologist and a holistic doctor. It's really cool. I never thought this day would come. Anyway, but really, I'm planning on taking over the universe with this lady here, Natalie Drennan. We are going to have, well, I say this funny, but we're going to have lots of artist-style babies everywhere. And Jess is sitting right next to her. She's part of this too, but you've only been with us for 3 years, so you have no idea all the other crazy stuff getting ready to come out. I want to have stores everywhere. So I always say that I don't sell clothing, I transform lives. So we believe that clothing is a reflection of who we are as people, and we can help you figure that out. If you don't know who you are, that's the best thing. I got to get into that later because I'm going too far into the later of my speech. But anyway, we're going to have babies of art of style everywhere. And I'm going to dress people from birth until death, although I'm trying to figure out a different slogan because that probably doesn't appeal to a lot of people. But I'll tell you, my very first onesie that I'm going to produce is going to be white with capital letters across saying shit, period. And it's only for only children. You can't have it if you have multiple kids, unless everyone's cussing at that point in time, but I'm just saying, anyway, okay, moving on. So, confidence to go out there and take over the universe. So that's what's getting ready to happen here. And that's actually, it is happening. It's happening right now. So, courage. That's what we're talking about today, right? It's the choice and willingness to confront agony, pain, danger, uncertainty, or intimidation. And highlight choice there. We do have choices in our life. Every day we have a choice to go left and right, to make a move or to not make a move. And I think that that's kind of ultimately the pivotal point. I think death caused me to live more. The origin, and I love this. So I took Latin for 6 years, so it makes me really happy. Latin is the core, right? So it's the center, the middle. From there we can deduce that courage is the rage of the core, your heart, your center, your purpose. Rage of the heart. How cool. I don't know if someone has a song like that. Another rage of the heart. Anyway, somebody should do that. And dedicate it to me. No, I'm just kidding. But no, if you think about it, we have everything we need in us right here. And that is your purpose, right? You have all these feelings, you have intuition, you have gut. You have this process. We physiologically feel things when we're don't do it, or you should totally do that, but you're nervous. And it's the courage to be hey, do you want to go for coffee? You look kind of cute. Things like that. And hey, it could change your life. I lost my clicker. Okay, sorry. Anyway, I just thought that was beautiful. Rage of the heart. I think if anyone knows me, and if y'all haven't figured out, I'm all about love, 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 and I just want to love on people. And did you guys know, sorry, really important fact, that you need 4 hugs a day to survive, and you need 8 hugs a day for maintenance and 12 hugs a day for growth. It's super important. And I'm a hugger, and I think I've already had 25 hugs at least in here, and I'm pretty sure I operated about 100 hugs a day. So if you see me, please hug me, because I might shrivel up and die into a little raisin child, and I don't want to do that. So hugs are really important. We are meant to embrace and love and feel. So just be courageous and go hug somebody. And I love this too. Opposite of courage is not cowardice. It's conformity. So again, looking around the room, we are all individuals. We are all unique. We are all here for a reason or purpose. And maybe we don't know what that is yet, but all we can do, or what we should be doing, is really just being our beautiful selves, because that is our gift to give back into the world. I don't know, creator, this and that. I'm not sure of what that really means or what's going on out there, but truly we are meant to give everything that we've got back to the world. And that means also to ourselves. This is the first time I've been single since I was 14, and it's awesome. And it's really crazy, and I love being alone and taking on that, but being conforming to somebody else, and I take this back to the artist style, and I'm gonna put a little thing in there for that, but just 2 different people can wear the exact same thing, and they can wear them totally differently. And if you don't know yourself, again, that's what we're really good at helping you find. But I don't know, if you have that little voice inside your head that says, oh, I want to speak up and say something, well, speak up and say something. Because I bet you that somebody else has that exact same feeling, and they're, wanting to jump on that bandwagon too, but they're afraid to say something. So, just be who you are, and don't be afraid of that. Now, honestly, if you're a bitch, you need to work on that, because that's not cool. And really, there's no time for that. There's so many rude people in the world, right? I was holding stuff in my hand the other day, and this guy who clearly, and I said, oh, he's definitely a gentleman. He's in his 60s. He didn't even look behind and just let the door, close on me. And I was Okay, that was a dick move. Like, so if you're a dick, also, you need some things to work on. So start being a little like, yes, reflect on yourself and like be good, but like think about it. Like we're all humans. Like let's just be a little kinder, a little nicer, and let's not conform to those negative things in life because there's a lot of negativity in this world. Like God, we just need to focus on the positive because life is really short, and I don't know, positivity, if you haven't figured that out, if you don't know, that's my #1 strength, by the way. Take StrengthsFinder 2.0 by Tom Rath. I highly recommend it. But mine is positivity, and I think I have to be, obviously, because I'm an entrepreneur, and my glass is like always overflowing, but there's like a tiny little hole in the bottom that's always like draining, so I'm like, it's gonna be fine. So anyway, just like be your fabulous self, like seriously. All right, so 6 attributes of courage. Feeling fear, yet choosing to act. So it's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. I mean, you can keep saying that, but then like nothing happens. So like, I don't know, you gotta do something about it. And once you do something about it, what's amazing is that you're like, wow, that felt really good. And so find more reasons to act, to do those things, and not be fake. I don't mean fake acting, I mean like really doing something. And following your heart. It's really hard, and you know what I recently realized? I was talking to somebody, and it's like your brain is here, and your eyes are here, and your nose is here, and your mouth is here. Sorry, I lost the mic. And your heart is here. And I think that the eyes, the nose, no, I didn't say that. Did I say the nose? I meant the ears. Sorry, the eyes, the ears, and the mouth separate your brain from your heart. Marinate on that a little bit, because it's like, oh, I see this, but I feel this. But your brain should be seeing and being like, no, that's messed up. And like, you know, you hear something, that's messed up, but like, no, wait. Like, you gotta use your brain sometimes. The heart is truly like your leading force in life. And you have to listen to that, because that's really, even though your brain, it likes to overtake your heart, being mindful and everything else, like you need to, oh, I'm running out of time. Okay, follow your heart. I recently left the man that I loved and thought I was gonna spend the rest of my life with, and I left him because I knew that he would never give what I needed from him. And that took a lot of guts, but I'm telling you, it was the best decision that I ever made. Persevering in the face of adversity, you gotta keep going. Like, again, well, if you didn't die, you're still here. So like, you gotta keep going. Life's gonna happen, shit's gonna happen. You're gonna have peaks and valleys. The reason we have bad things happen is so you can really appreciate the great things that happen. And you have to have bad things happen, because otherwise you'll be like, my life is fabulous, and everyone's gonna hate you because you're like, it's not really that great all the time. All right, standing up for what's right. I think that's just the way it is. Like seriously, if you see someone doing something wrong, like standing up and saying something, because again, anyway. All right, expanding your horizons, letting go of the familiar. Like try something new. If there's something that you wanted to try, go do it. Again, you're still here, you're still breathing, you're still alive, you're still able to. You don't know what's gonna happen to you tomorrow, and like just take advantage of the opportunity of the day, or of the, not advantage of person or people, but like take advantage of the opportunity that's placed in front of you, that you can actually like go out there and do something and make a difference and make a change. And facing suffering with dignity or faith, I hope that I've done that, and I encourage all of you guys to go through and do the exact same thing. It's hard and it's not easy, but we all deal with it in different ways, and we can talk about it and work through it together. I'm leaving you with Find Yourself, which is our unofficial slogan at The Art of Style, which it's an understood you. We don't really talk about it anymore, because a lot of people that shop with us really already know themselves. But the cool thing is if you don't, that's what we help you with. And tying this back into courage, if you don't know who you are as a person, that's your starting point. And I think that once you know about yourself and who you are as a person and as an individual, and makes you tick, it makes you happy and everything else, which also means you should spend some time alone together, or alone together with yourself, yeah, like me, myself, and I. Someone's like, who are you there with? I'm like, me, myself, and I, and they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, and they're all awesome. So anyway, like really get to know yourself, and that will help you be more courageous. So cheers. I would like to thank Cam. I'd like to thank CreativeMornings for offering me this opportunity to talk about courage with you guys. I hope that I've hopefully inspired some of you to go out there and chase your dreams and live through your life in amazing and happy ways. I thank my mom, because she's the most amazing mother on the planet. Thank you for teaching me how to be a great mom, because I'm about to go to my wit's end. And thank you to Natalie for being there for the past several years in this life. Thank you to all of you for being here for this amazing day. For all of you that I don't know, for all of you that I do know, thank you, and I love you, and I need many hugs. But for all of you that I don't know, I would like to know you, because every time I come to CreativeMornings, I'm like, there's so many cool people, I want to know all of them. So anyway, cheers. I'm totally out of time. I'm ready for questions if you have any. Go.